do is they're trying to gather up people that they think are disposable, ship them to a third country without giving them the right to challenge their removal. And then they claim it's to make America safe. But the fact is that, immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than U.S. citizens. Those are stats. So really, what I really just want to say, is that, yes, I acknowledge that my husband does have a criminal conviction. When he was 18, he made a mistake. He feared for his life, and in shock, he fired a gun that resulted in someone's death. He's been remorseful, he's repented, and he served his whole 25-year sentence. What this administration is trying to do is basically condemn him to a second unjust and illegal sentence of third country deportation. And so we have to fight back, okay? If we do not do that and they're able to get away with this, you and I could be next. If they are allowed to remove people to a third country, a country that's actually in the middle of a civil war, by the way, a country that the own U.S. Department of State said, hey, don't travel here because there's high risk of death, right? Because there's armed conflicts going on, there's kidnapping going on, disappearances going on, indefinite torture going on. Yet they want to drop these men into an unsafe country. Very shameful. It's very cruel and very inhumane. It shows the total disregard for human life and also the total disregard for the rule of law we have in this country. I don't know if you guys know, but during the week of May 5th, they tried to deport 13 men to Libya, another war-torn country. So people got alerted of this, and the judge intervened in time. These men were actually on a bus about to get loaded onto a plane to Libya. Thank God the judge got wind of that, ordered that the bus turn around and return these men, back to the immigration center. So they didn't, make that happen. They failed. The judge said, hey, you guys can't do this. It's illegal. These men need to be afforded due process. Yet 2 weeks later, after the judge told them that they cannot do it, they turned around and they gathered my husband and 7 other men, loaded them onto a plane, and deported them to South Sudan. Thank God that, again, attorneys were alerted. Judge Murphy swiftly took action, and he told the U.S. government that they needed to maintain custody of these men and that they could not be handed over to a third country without due process. And so the plane was diverted, and the men are now on a U.S. military base in Djibouti, Africa, waiting for the U.S. government to allow them to have their reasonable fear of torture interview so that they can contest the removal to South Sudan. And of course the government is slow walking the hell out of this thing, right? They asked the Supreme Court to pretty much allow them to deport these men to South Sudan without due process. So now we're waiting to see what the Supreme Court's gonna rule. If the Supreme Courts go with this, we are in trouble. We no longer have the rule of law in this country. All of us are gonna be pawns. If we say or do something that this administration doesn't like, we're out of here. So I really, really want to encourage you, to keep fighting the fight. I also want to call to Ferguson, there's this petition going around, and I know there's like over 700 letters right now, so thank you, each and every one of you. But Ferguson really needs to take action, because if we did not cooperate with ICE, this would not even be an issue. We have folks that finish their prison sentence and then they're handed over to ICE to be deported. That is not justice. That is not fair. So we're asking, that Ferguson and the ICE, the prison to ICE pipeline, he has the power to resolve all of this, but yet he's been silent.
We are collectively enraged at hearing of the are trafficked, migrants who are disappeared from their loved ones. And I say that's a shame. This is a violation of international humanitarian law, basic human dignity, and we say it's enough. We are coming together to end this fascist and imperialist system that is putting our people in cages. It is disgusting to know that Tuan's story is not an isolated incident. Jose is another migrant who I have the fortunate will to know personally. Jose lived here in Washington State. He's another Venezuelan migrant who was kidnapped by the Trump administration. He's 29 years old, a father of 2, and he was here to apply for asylum, but he was never given that due process. Instead, he was one of the very first Venezuelan migrants to be kidnapped and taken to Guantanamo Bay, where they horrifically tortured him. Jose, to this day, he was deported from Guantanamo Bay back to Venezuela, where he had to escape. And to this day, he sends us videos in the backs of trucks with his family, attempting to find livelihood and stability, and he can't find that. Because this was all due to the hands of the U.S. government and Bob Ferguson, who allowed this to happen in the first place. Another local asylum seeker who we work with here, Miguel, was detained 2 weeks ago inside of this very fucking building when he was called to come to his ICE hearing. And while he was waiting, he didn't even get to go inside. They detained him in the fucking waiting room. Shame! He was doing exactly what he was told to do. He was showing up for his hearing so he could seek asylum due to the sanctions that the U.S. put on his home country and caused the horrific conditions that required him to leave in the first place. And now he's being held at the Northwest Detention Center, where he can't receive the proper care for his medical